You could cook every meal, plan every date, send every good morning text, rearrange your entire life around them, and they will still pull away. Not because you did something wrong, not because you are not enough, but because of something running so deep inside them that even they do not fully understand it. And today, I'm going to break it all down for you. Because once you see what an avoidant is actually loyal to, everything, every push and pull, every hot and cold moment, every disappearing act, every almost relationship you have ever experienced will finally make sense. If this is something you have been trying to figure out, drop the word loyal in the comments right now. And if you want to understand people on a level that most people never reach, subscribe because we go deep here. We do not do surface level advice. We get to the truth. Let me start with something that is going to feel uncomfortable to hear. The avoidant in your life does not experience love the way you do. That is not an insult to them. It is not a judgment. It is just a fact. And the sooner you understand this fact on a real level, not just intellectually but emotionally, the sooner you stop destroying yourself trying to earn something from someone who has a completely different operating system than you do. Because here is the thing. Most people spend years, sometimes decades, trying to figure out what they need to do differently to make an avoidant stay, to make them open up, to make them choose them. They try being less needy. They try being more available. They try giving more space. They try pulling back. They try being warmer. They try being cooler. They try just about everything. And every single time, nothing really changes in any lasting way. The avoidant might open up a little. They might come closer for a moment. They might even say all the right things. But then something happens, something invisible, something you cannot quite name, and they start to disappear again. And you are left wondering what you did, what you said, what you missed. And the answer is probably nothing, because the issue was never about you and what you were doing. The issue is about what the avoidant is loyal to, and they are not loyal to you. They are not loyal to the relationship. They are not even loyal to their own happiness. They are loyal to one thing and one thing only. And that one thing is their sense of safety, their emotional safety, not your safety, theirs. And here is where it gets really interesting, because when I say safety, most people think of safety as a good thing, and it is. For most people, feeling safe in a relationship means they can open up. They can be vulnerable. They can let someone in. They can trust that person will not hurt them. But for an avoidant, safety looks completely different. For an avoidant, safety is not intimacy. Safety is distance. Safety is independence. Safety is the ability to exist without needing anyone else to function. Safety for an avoidant is the knowledge that they are in control of their own emotional state. And no person, no matter how incredible they are, can ever compete with that feeling of control. This is the core of everything you need to understand. The avoidant is not choosing someone else over you. They are not choosing their hobbies over you. They are not choosing their independence over you because they secretly hate commitment. They are choosing all of those things because those things feel safe. And you, as a person who wants closeness, who wants real intimacy, who wants a genuine emotional connection, you represent the very thing that feels unsafe to them. Not because you are bad, not because you are doing anything wrong, but because closeness itself, real closeness, feels like a threat to their nervous system. Think about that for a second. Real closeness feels like a threat. Well, that is what you are dealing with. That is the opponent you are up against. And you cannot love someone out of a threat response. You cannot cook enough dinners. You cannot send enough thoughtful messages. You cannot show up in enough beautiful ways to make someone stop feeling threatened by the thing you are offering them. And this is the tragic irony of loving an avoidant. The more love you pour in, the more threatened they feel. The more you show up, the more they pull back. The more you try to close the distance, the faster they create more distance. It is not personal, but it absolutely feels personal. And that feeling, that agonizing feeling of doing everything right and still losing someone, That is what breaks people who love avoidance. So let us go even deeper, because I do not want you to just understand the surface of this. I want you to understand the roots, because the roots are where the real insight lives. Avoidant attachment does not come from nowhere. It is not a character flaw that someone was born with. It is a learned response. It is something that developed usually very early in life as a way of surviving an environment where emotional needs were either consistently ignored, dismissed, or punished. Think about what that means for a child. A child who cries for comfort and is met with silence. A child who expresses sadness and is told to stop being so sensitive. A child who reaches for connection and finds that the person they need either cannot give it or actively pulls away from it. What does that child learn? That child learns that needing people is dangerous. That child learns that vulnerability leads to disappointment. That child learns that the safest strategy is to need less, to feel less, to become so self-sufficient that they never have to depend on anyone for anything emotional. And that strategy works. It works in that environment. It protects them. It keeps them functioning. It allows them to survive a situation that would otherwise be emotionally devastating. The problem is that the child grows up. The environment changes, but the strategy stays. And now you have an adult walking around who has trained themselves on a deep nervous system level to associate emotional intimacy with danger. And then they meet someone wonderful, someone warm, someone who makes them feel things they have never felt before, or at least not allowed themselves to feel. And for a moment, it is incredible because they want it. They genuinely want the connection. A part of them is starving for it. They do not want to be alone. They do not want to spend their life never letting anyone in. They are human beings with human needs, just like everyone else. But the closer it gets, the louder the alarm goes off inside them. And that alarm is not rational. It does not respond to logic. It does not respond to love. It responds to one thing. Perceived threat and closeness to their nervous system is a perceived threat. So what happens? They do what their entire internal system has been programmed to do. They create distance. They become unavailable. They get busy. They start finding flaws in you that did not seem to bother them before. They pull back emotionally. They start questioning the relationship. They convince themselves that actually this is not right, that you are not the right person, that they are not ready, that something is missing. And this is the part that is so important to understand. They are not lying when they say these things. In that moment, they genuinely feel all of it. Their brain has convinced them that pulling away is the correct and rational response. Their brain is showing them all the reasons why getting closer would be a mistake. It is doing this to protect them. It is doing this because that is what it was trained to do. So when an avoidant pulls away from you, they are not being calculated. They are not playing games on purpose. They are not trying to hurt you. They are following the oldest and deepest programming they have. They are being loyal to their safety system. And that safety system does not care about you. It does not care about what you have built together. It does not care about the beautiful moments you have shared. It does not care about your feelings, your needs, your love, your efforts, because that safety system was built before you existed in their life. It was built when they were small and powerless and had no other options, and it has been running on autopilot ever since. Now, here is where people make the biggest mistake, and I really need you to hear this because this mistake is costing people years of their lives. When people learn about avoidant attachment, they often turn it into an excuse to keep trying. They think, okay, now I understand them. Now I know why they are like this. So I need to be more patient. I need to be more understanding. I need to give them more space. I need to love them better. I need to stick around long enough for them to feel safe. And sometimes that feels noble. It feels like the compassionate thing to do. But I want to challenge that. Not because compassion is wrong, but because that approach puts all of the responsibility on you and none on them. And that is not compassion. That is self-abandonment dressed up as patience. Let me explain what I mean. An avoidant can absolutely grow. People with avoidant attachment styles are not broken beyond repair. They are not permanently incapable of love or connection or healthy relationships. But they can only grow if they are doing the work. Real work, not the work of tolerating your presence. Real active, intentional work on themselves. Therapy, self-reflection, a genuine willingness to look at their patterns and take responsibility for them. Because here is what does not work. Waiting for them. Adjusting yourself. Making yourself smaller. Making yourself more accommodating. Tolerating behavior that hurts you because you understand where it comes from. Understanding someone's pain does not mean you have to absorb it. Understanding the source of someone's unavailability does not mean you have to accept their unavailability. Those are two completely different things, and a lot of people mix them up. They think that because they now understand the avoidance wounds, they have to be the person who heals those by staying regardless of how they are being treated. But here is the truth. You cannot heal someone else's attachment wounds for them. You cannot love someone into security. Love is not enough to override a nervous system that has been conditioned over decades to associate intimacy with danger. What actually creates change in an avoidant is not a more patient partner. What creates change is the avoidant themselves deciding they want to change and then doing the actual hard work of change with professional support, with consistent effort over a real period of time, not because someone is waiting around long enough for them to get there. Now let us talk about the thing that nobody wants to talk about, the push and pull cycle. Because if you have ever been involved with an avoidant, you know exactly what I am talking about. And it is one of the most psychologically addictive dynamics in human relationships. Here is how it works. The avoidant pulls away. You feel the loss of their warmth and closeness. You start to panic. You reach out. You do more. You try harder. And then one of two things happens. Either they do not respond and you spiral deeper into anxiety, or they come back. They warm up again. And the moment they come back, it feels incredible because the relief of having them close again after the fear of losing them creates an enormous emotional high. Your brain registers that moment of reconnection as deeply rewarding, almost like a drug, and then they pull away again, and the cycle ticks. And here is the thing. This cycle over time trains you to be more and more focused on them. Because your nervous system is now in a constant state of waiting for the next moment of connection. Every small gesture becomes enormous. Every text they send feels like a gift. Every moment of warmth feels like winning. And without even realizing it, you have become completely organized around them. Your mood depends on their mood. Your sense of worth depends on their response. Your day is shaped by whether they reached out or did not. And they, in the meantime, are getting exactly what their system needs. Closeness when they want it, distance when they want it, control over the temperature of the relationship at all times. And you are allowing it not because you are weak, not because you are stupid, but because this cycle is genuinely addictive. It is literally activating the same reward pathways in your brain that substance addiction does. The unpredictability, the intermittent reinforcement, the highs and the lows. It is designed not intentionally, but functionally to keep you hooked. And the only way out of it is to see it clearly, to name it, to refuse to participate in it anymore. And that is one of the hardest things a person can do when they are deep inside this dynamic. Because leaving does not feel like freedom when you are in it. It feels like loss. It feels like giving up on something real. It feels like abandoning a person you love at the moment they need the most patience. But what is actually happening is you are choosing yourself. You are deciding that your need for consistent love and connection is as valid as their need for emotional safety. And it is. Your needs matter. Your desire for closeness is not a flaw. Your need for security in a relationship is not weakness or neediness. It is a completely normal, healthy human need. And you deserve to be with someone who can actually meet that need. Not perfectly, not without effort, but consistently. Someone who, when they feel the urge to pull away, chooses to communicate instead. Someone who recognizes their patterns and takes responsibility for them. Snorts, someone who is actively building something with you rather than keeping you at exactly the distance that feels comfortable for them. Now, I want to address something that I think is really important because I do not want this to become a session of avoidant bashing. I do not think avoidants are bad people. I think they are people who are in pain, real pain, and their pull-away behavior, while it is damaging to you, is also damaging to them. The avoidant is not winning in this dynamic. They might look like they are. They might seem unbothered. They might appear to be fine on the outside, but internally, many avoidants carry a deep loneliness. They have a part of them that genuinely wants connection, but has learned to suppress that want so completely that sometimes they cannot even access it consciously. They convince themselves they are fine alone. They convince themselves they do not need people. But there is a difference between not needing people and being cut off from your own needs. And avoidants have often learned to cut off from their own needs so effectively that they genuinely do not feel the loneliness until it is very quiet, until there is no distraction, until it is just them with themselves. And in those moments, many avoidants feel an ache they cannot quite explain, an emptiness that does not make sense given how much they tell themselves they value independence. That ache is the part of them that wants what everyone wants. Love, safety, belonging, being known by another person, being loved anyway. They want it. They are just deeply, deeply afraid of it. And that fear runs their life. And that is heartbreaking for them and for the people who love them. But heartbreak does not mean you should stay in a dynamic that is slowly eroding your self-worth. Compassion for someone does not mean sacrificing yourself for them. You can understand their pain and still choose to remove yourself from a situation that is hurting you. These things can exist together. Now let me talk about what you can actually do, because I do not want to leave you here with just an explanation. Understanding is important, but it is not enough on its own. You need to know what to do with this understanding. The first thing, stop trying to outgive the avoidance. I know this feels counterintuitive because your instinct when someone pulls away is to do more, to show them you care, to prove your value, to demonstrate that you are worth staying for. But every time you do more in response to their pulling away, you are reinforcing the cycle. You are teaching them that their distance gets you to work harder. And unconsciously, that tells their system that they have control, that they are safe, that they can pull back, and you will not go anywhere. And while that might feel reassuring to them in a very short-term way, it actually decreases their respect and attraction over time because people do not value what they do not have to show up for. People do not value relationships where all the work is being done by one person. That is just human psychology. It applies to everyone, including avoidants. The second thing, get clear on what you actually need, not what you think you should need, not what feels realistic given who this person is, but what you actually need to feel loved, valued, and secure in a relationship. Write it down. If you have to say it out loud, own it without apology because your needs are real and they matter. And then ask yourself honestly whether this person is meeting those needs. Not whether they could theoretically meet them if they just did the work, but whether they are actually right now in real life meeting them. If the answer is no, that is information. Important information. Information you are allowed to act on. The third thing, invest in yourself the way you have been investing in them. All that energy you've been pouring into understanding them, accommodating them, being patient with them, trying to figure out the magic combination that will finally make them open up. Take even half of that energy and point it toward yourself, your growth, your friendships, your passions, your life, because here is what happens when you do that. Two things. First, you start to remember who you are outside of this dynamic. You start to reclaim the parts of yourself you may have quietly put aside while you were organizing your life around someone who was not organizing theirs around you. And second, you become less available for the cycle, not in a manipulative way, not as a tactic, but genuinely because you are actually living your life, and that is attractive, and more importantly, it is healthy. The fourth thing, stop explaining yourself to someone who is not ready to understand. When you are in a dynamic with an avoidant, there is often this pattern of trying to make them see, trying to explain how you feel, trying to communicate your needs in a way that will finally land with them. And sometimes this helps. Communication is always valuable, but there is a version of it that turns into pleading, into justifying your needs, into convincing someone that you deserve basic emotional reciprocity. If you've reached the point where you're constantly defending your feelings or proving you deserve love, something is already wrong. The right person won't make you argue for your worth. The biggest shift comes when you're willing to let the relationship end if it no longer meets your needs. Real consequences, not threats, are often the only thing that pushes an avoidant to reflect. Sometimes they grow, sometimes they let you go. Either outcome gives you clarity. Not every relationship is meant to last. Some exist to reveal your own patterns. How much you tolerate, how often you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable. If you're repeatedly attracted to emotionally unavailable people, it's worth asking where that pattern began. The real work isn't only understanding the avoidant, it's understanding yourself. Many people mistake the anxiety of chasing an avoidant for genuine chemistry, but secure love feels different. It's calm, steady, safe, and doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. Healthy love doesn't require you to shrink yourself, ignore your needs, or keep proving your value. It allows you to feel more like yourself, not less. You deserve someone who chooses you consistently, not someone who keeps you guessing. So stop chasing. Stop accepting crumbs as love. Be loyal to your own well-being. When you decide your needs matter just as much as anyone else's, everything changes. You stop overgiving, create space for real connection, and finally make room for the love you truly deserve.